On the high plains of Ethiopia, near the ancient capital of Aksum, the air itself feels thin and old. Here, the ground is littered with the bones of a dead empire. The ruins of monasteries and palaces are not just weathered by time, they feel scarred by a deep and ancient violence. A visitor can stand among these broken stones and feel a coldness that has nothing to do with the wind. This is not the quiet decay of a place simply forgotten. It is the echo of a deliberate rage, a fury so complete that its presence was burned into the very landscape. For more than 1,000 years, a psychic wound has remained here. The silence in these ruins is not empty. It is heavy, filled with the memory of a great undoing, a historical cataclysm that left behind a permanent haunting. The source of this terror is a figure known to history only by a name given by her enemies. They called her Gudit, a word that means the monster. She was a queen who rose in the 10th century and tore the Aksumite Empire apart. Her true name, her true face, and the kingdom she came from are all lost. They are a perfect, dark void in the historical record. This void is where the haunting begins. Was she Gudit, a Jewish queen taking revenge for the persecution of her people? Or was she a southern pagan queen leading a rebellion against the spread of Christianity? History offers no certain answers, only frightening possibilities. Her identity was either erased by those who survived her, or she was a force that came from outside history itself. The result is the same. A woman of flesh and blood was replaced by a legend. Where facts end, fear takes over. Gudit became something more than a conqueror. She became a malevolent spirit, a ghost whose wrath was so great it broke the timeline, leaving behind a story of supernatural destruction that is still told in whispers today. Her 40-year war against the Aksumite kingdom was a campaign of unholy terror. Consider the monastery of Damo, a fortress of faith built atop a sheer-sided mountain, accessible only by a single rope. For centuries, it was untouchable, a sanctuary floating in the sky, safe from the wars of men below. History says Gudit never took this place. But legend tells a far darker story. It claims she did not need soldiers to climb the cliffs. Instead, she laid siege with dark magic, commanding the very rock to weep fire and turn against the monks inside. It was not a war against a king, but a war against heaven itself, an act of such blasphemy that it stained the world. This was the method of her madness. Her goal was not conquest, it was a ritual of complete erasure. She did not seek to rule the Aksumites, she sought to make it so they had never existed at all. The destruction was systematic, a cold and patient annihilation of a people's soul. When her armies destroyed churches, they did not simply loot them. They burned the holy books, melted down the crosses, and pulled the buildings down to their foundations. Then they performed an ancient and terrible ritual. They sowed the sacred ground with salt, a curse to ensure that nothing, not even faith, could ever grow there again. But the most dramatic evidence of her power lies in the open, under the African sky. Near Aksum is the Gudit stele field, a graveyard of giants. These were once massive granite obelisks, each carved from a single piece of stone, soaring toward the heavens as symbols of Aksum's power and its connection to the divine. Today, they lie shattered on the ground. But this physical ruin is only the first layer of the story. The broken stones are a scar you can see. The true horror lies in the wound you can feel, a wound that is never closed. This fear is not an ancient memory, it is a living, breathing thing. Even today, the people who live in the shadow of these fallen giants will not go near the stelae field after the sun has set. They speak of it in hushed tones, a place abandoned not just by people, but by peace itself. They say her spirit guards the broken stones. It is not the ghost of a woman, but a formless rage that clings to the earth. They call it a cold fire, a presence that does not burn but drains all warmth, all life, from any who dare to linger in the darkness where she broke the world. To understand this living dread, we must understand what the stelae truly were. To the people of Aksum, they were not simple monuments to the dead. They were conduits, great stone needles that stitched the mortal world to the heavens. They were channels of cosmic energy. Gudit's attack was therefore not just an act of war, it was a ritual of cosmic severance. By toppling these stones, she was not merely breaking a city, she was tearing a people from their gods. It was an act of profound spiritual warfare, meant to leave a kingdom orphaned and lost in a silent universe. Each fallen obelisk is a testament to that spiritual violence. They are not just ruins, they are the physical evidence of a connection that was murdered. The deep unease of the place comes from this ancient crime. It is the feeling of a sky that was pulled away from the earth. This is not just folklore, the curse is active. Recorded tales from the 19th and 20th centuries tell a consistent, chilling story. A farmer, needing a foundation for a new home, sees a perfectly shaped block among the ruins. A builder, practical and unimpressed by old stories, decides to repurpose a fallen giant. In every account, the result is the same. A sudden, wasting sickness befalls the one who disturbed the stone. It is an illness with no name and no cure, a slow and steady draining of life. It is the cold fire of the legend reaching out from the past to claim a new victim. Here our investigation must take a turn. We have been searching for the ghost of Queen Gudit, but that is the wrong question. It assumes that a person lived, died, and then left a spiritual echo. The truth is far more terrifying. Gudit did not leave a haunting. She became one. The human woman was merely the vessel for a rage so absolute, an act of destruction so complete, that it could not be contained by a single life or a single death. The legend is not a story about the haunting. The legend is the entity. And so we arrive at the great, silent secret. The reason Gudit is a ghost in the pages of history is not because the records were lost. It is because she willed it. Her final, greatest act of destruction was not against a kingdom, but against herself. The empty spaces in the historical record are not an accident. They are the monuments to her victory. This was not merely a wish to be forgotten. It was a ritual, a systematic, magical annihilation of her own identity. By destroying the symbols of the old power, the churches, the stelae, the royal lineage, she was severing the threads that tied her to the world. She erased her own name, her bloodline, her human story, until nothing remained but the force of her rage. Her ultimate triumph was to become a void. She traded her humanity for a place in legend. She is not remembered as a person who lived, but as a terror that happened. A monstrous, shapeless force of destruction, unburdened by a name or a face. This is why her spirit is so potent. It has no anchor to a forgotten past. It is pure, timeless, and free. But erasing a life so violently does not leave behind a clean slate. It leaves a wound, a psychic contamination on the land itself. The terror of Gudit is not confined to the ruins she created. It soaked into the soil, poisoned the water, and settled in the stones like a permanent sickness. It is a presence that can still be felt today. Local mystics and elders have a name for this lingering malevolence. They call it the Gudit wound. It is not a story they tell, but a warning they give. It describes the unnatural dread that hangs over certain valleys, the sudden inexplicable despair that can grip a traveler, the feeling of being watched by a hateful, ancient intelligence. It is the spiritual scar left by a soul who chose to become a curse. This changes everything we think we know about the past. We search for history in dusty books and broken artifacts. We believe that what is lost is simply gone. But Gudit's story suggests something far more terrifying. It suggests that an absence can be a presence, that history is not a passive record, but an active and sometimes malevolent force. If one woman could perform a ritual of historical erasure on herself, who else has done the same? How many other voids exist in our timeline? Are there other figures whose names we will never know precisely because their dark magic was so successful? We search for the ghosts of the past, But perhaps the most powerful ghosts are the ones who ensured we would never even know their names. The story of Gudit is a final, chilling warning. It proves that human emotion, especially rage, can become a force as powerful and enduring as geology or time itself. History is not just a record of events, it is an archive of feelings, and some feelings do not decay. They petrify. They become part of the landscape. If one woman's wrath can burn a scar into the soul of a nation for over 1,000 years, it forces us to ask a deeply unsettling question. What other forgotten hatreds, what other ancient sorrows still lie sleeping just beneath our feet, waiting? This is not a curse spoken in words. It is a wound left in time. When an act of destruction is so complete, so filled with pure hatred, it does not simply end. It tears the fabric of what is real, leaving behind a place where the past is not past at all. It is a permanent, active wrongness. This wrongness is seen today. Near the ruins of Aksum, strange weather follows those who dig too deep. Compasses spin without reason. Modern recording equipment captures whispers where there is only wind. These are not random events. They are the symptoms of a land that is still sick with the memory of Gudit's fire. Some call this phenomenon psychic residue. The idea is simple. Stone, earth, and air can hold the memory of powerful emotions. The rage of Gudit was so strong it did not just break stones. It imprinted itself onto the very landscape. The haunting is the land itself, remembering the day it was broken. Visitors to these places feel it. It is a pressure in the air, a feeling of being watched by something old and full of hate. This is not the quiet sadness of a ruin. It is the active, burning anger of the one who made it a ruin. You do not just see her work, you feel her presence. At the fallen stelae field, the feeling is strongest. Local stories speak of a low, humming sound that comes from the ground on moonless nights. Some who have stayed too long after dark claim to hear voices carried on the wind. They are not words, but the pure sound of anger, a language of destruction. And here is a terrifying thought. The haunting does not exist to make us remember her. It exists because we are beginning to forget. Her great act was erasure. When the memory of that erasure fades, the void she created pulls harder on our world. The silence she demanded is now calling out. This is the great and terrible paradox of her legacy. By burning the books and killing the priests, she tried to remove herself from history. But in doing so, she became a ghost made of absence. Her power does not come from what is known of her. It comes from everything that was lost. It makes one wonder, how many other voids exist in our past? How many other figures, wiped from the record by war or disaster, have become silent ghosts? They are unseen forces, shaping our world from the empty spaces in our history books. Their influence is a pressure we cannot name. In the late 1960s, a team of European archaeologists attempted a major excavation at one of the monasteries Gudit destroyed. Their project was ended by a series of disasters. Equipment failed in impossible ways. A sudden, localized rock slide destroyed their camp. The team leader fell into a deep, feverish madness, speaking of a woman made of fire who walked the hills at night. This is what it means to face a history that hates you. It is not an archive of facts. It is a living wound. Queen Gudit's war did not end 1,000 years ago. It is still being fought in the strange silence of the Ethiopian highlands, a reminder that some scars never heal. They just wait.